Hello and welcome. My guest today is a director. His body of work has made him one of the best-known filmmakers in the world. His movies have won many prestigious awards, including several Oscars. He is also the best example of an international filmmaker succeeding in Hollywood. His 13th film, The Life of Pi, based on the Booker Prize-winning book of the same name, releases this month in 3D glory. I'm talking about Ang Lee, and he is in India. Please welcome Ang Lee. Ang Lee, let's start, of course, with The Life of Pi. You had read the book quite a few years ago before you were actually signed on to direct it.
Right.
So what attracted you to taking it on? Is it the cinematic challenge, and really how do you make this story a film that's exciting to watch? Or was it the nature of the story?
You put it very well. You know, I'm an avid filmmaker. When it's so challenging, it becomes seductive. You know, I live for this kind of thing. I read it thinking that this will not be made into a movie, at least good movie, because the cost of the movie doesn't meet with the need of a philosophical, you know, fable tale. Yeah. I just don't think the economic side and the artistic side will meet. And also just physically, how do you do it? And how do you find a structure? But once somebody asked me, Fox, this is available 4 or 5 years ago, and it started gnawing on me. It's teasing. When I think about how do you go about that, and I got hooked. And I found myself traveling in India, going through the same tour as Martel has, soaking up Indian culture, particularly religious aspect. And I started thinking about how to crack down this material. And I thought of 3D, if it's impossible, maybe 3D with another dimension, maybe it is possible. Things like that. It's a preparation of 2 years before I dare say that I take the challenge.
I heard you say somewhere that you actually had an animation film made so that you could
Before I
have
made
a
the movie, I
reference.
made the movie, animation of the movie.
It would be lovely to see that.
Yeah, you can see it. It's I spent a year with a company, animation company, Halong, in Los Angeles, and we did an animation of the ocean part from beginning to end. So I can go about it. I can meet people. How do we, make this shot? How do we make that shot? And also, I can use that as a base for budget to present to the studio.
Explain to us, the layperson, what really were the challenges in translating the story into celluloid? Because it sounds, at one level, like a great adventure story. Young boy cast alone in the sea with a tiger for company. It just sounds like a great adventure story. What are the cinematic challenges of this endeavor?
The biggest one is the nature of cinema, because you have to watch it, and the attention audience has something on the screen is mandatory. 2 hours.
Yeah.
You have to stay in the illusion we created for you. And one of the aspects that attract me as a filmmaker the most is a book that examines illusions.
Yes.
The thing we call God, that our emotional connection to the unknown. So how do you well, I'm a filmmaker, I'm a storyteller. So I create illusions, I communicate with illusions. So how do I examine that or keep them in an illusion? I think that's actually the hardest thing.
I want to talk about the other aspect of the film, which is also the core of the book, and that is the fact that it's deeply philosophical and in a sense asks very deep questions of spirituality and about human beings and their belief of things beyond themselves. What is your take on that aspect of the book? And when you have to appeal to a global audience, how do you communicate such complex thoughts while working within the confines of entertainment? It has to be entertaining.
Yes, you put it very well. It's a global-wide audience, expensive movie. It has to look like a mainstream movie. So on the surface, it has to be an adventure story. The zoo is a paradise. His life in India is idealistic. Then he's deprived of everything. Like any Disney movie, you have to kill the parents first. Then he cannot rely on any social skill. he gathered even organized religion, I mean pi, and he's facing the ultimate God in an abstract sense. What do I do? He survived it, then he has to survive his own sanity. If the whole journey becomes internalized. And at the end, you have the exam. Is that real? What is the truth? I think it's a very difficult movie to make. If it's our house, we do that all the time.
Yes.
Mainstream,
Yeah.
not so easy. Yeah.
The interesting thing is that you work with Indian actors in this book because of the nature of the book, and yet that's not unusual, because when you did Sense and Sensibility, that's when you broke that barrier, isn't it? Doesn't matter language, ethnicity, culture. These are not barriers to you as a filmmaker.
The experience of Sense Sensibility was really scary, but that break my mental barrier. I think the barrier is rather mental. Because movies is sight and sound.
Yeah.
It's a lot easier than, let's say, theater. I spoke pidgin English, non-fluent sentences English when I direct Sensibility. I was very nervous. Once I downed that, I thought I could do anything with cinema. If at that time the me could make a movie like that, anything
Jane
is possible.
Austen's England.
Anything could happen in cinema. It's sight and sound. It's something else. I think the culture barrier, you can amend it, you can seek help, you can blend it, but cinema is something else.
So obviously working with Indian actors was no problem at all then?
No, it's just if you don't understand something, ask. The problem I had here is that there's 33 million gods, seems like, in India. You don't always get the same question if you ask different people. It's hard to decide which one to listen to. They all seem to have different opinions.
So the
it's very different than in English.
Different opinions and a lot of arguments, I think, for to support each opinion.
Yeah, or even same person. In the morning and in the afternoon, they give me different answers.
So your research on this project must have been more difficult than all the other
With
projects.
Vishnu staying in this temple, sometimes yes, sometimes no. They say no, but I see him right there. Oh, because they borrow. They don't have the water tank. They borrow from here, and it's just all over the places. I don't know who to trust.
Yourself, I guess, at the end of the day.
Make your best shot. At the end of the day, say, oh, okay, I'll just do it.
You have been described as a Taiwanese American filmmaker, but I've heard you say in some interview that you like to think of yourself
I still have
as
Taiwanese passport.
as a Taiwanese filmmaker.
Yeah, I'm not American
So
yet. I live there, yeah.
What do identities mean to you? Because we're living in a world where you're the living example of somebody who's broken what seem to be language and cultural barriers in the most difficult industry, where you're actually weaving cultural narratives for people. And what does identity mean to you? Because it seems it can be very fluid for all of us today.
My parents came from China to Taiwan. We're kind of an outsider. But I carry the traditional Chinese culture with me in my heritage, and that's been changed in Taiwan. And when I go back to China, it's not the same thing. And I choose to live in America. I still have Taiwanese passport. Not Americans. People say I'm Taiwanese American or Chinese American filmmaker. That's not really right. I think my upbringing is quite Asian. It's that of a traditional Chinese culture, and the upbringing in Taiwan has sort of decide how I look at the world, and that has a little drifting sense. I don't have a very definite cultural root that I can rely on. And I'm a mixture, and I would like people to accept me and respect me that way. I think so is the rest of the world. And a lot of people not necessarily rooted in one specific culture or land, and everybody has his thing, has his mixture. It's very complicated, and I think we need to respect each other in that way. The specificality and a mix of culture and roots and everything.
You've adapted several books into movies. Even I think Lust Caution was
Eileen
it was
Chang,
based
yeah.
on a book. Brokeback, of course, is Alice Munro's, and now Life of Pi, Sense and Sensibility. What are the challenges that throws up, if any?
The challenge is that when you adapt something, that means you probably like the book, and there's a trap of you get trapped into the language, the writing itself,
Yeah.
The literature, and then very easily you want to be loyal to that, and you become enslaved into being a translator from that to the cinema. Then you're doomed. You're doomed. You're destined to be failure, in my opinion. I think the important thing is that you're still making a movie.
And the interesting thing is that your first 3 films were all movies that you wrote.
Yeah, I was young. Nobody gave me book or or scripts. I'm more of a filmmaker than writer. So, One Sensibility, that was my 4th movie, come to my way. From then on, I'm just happy to snatch anything come to my way. Again, when you're making a movie, it's a recreation.
Yeah.
You go into a role. It's not about the book anymore.
Yeah.
There's a period of time, transition time. You're thinking about the book,
Yeah.
but once you get onto a role, I don't remember any book or any short story stay with me. Like 2 months into the pre-production, I forgot. Nobody talk about book anymore on the set. You just try to make things work. Yeah.
Would it be possible for you to explain, to deconstruct for us, why is it that you have become someone who Hollywood has, consistently welcomed with open arms? You're somebody who is an international, a Taiwanese filmmaker, at least in origin, but you work with Hollywood and they support all your projects. Because, in India, there are a lot of filmmakers who aspire to that, who see it as something to aspire to, who see it as an ambition. So how would you deconstruct what makes you and Hollywood work?
I don't know. Maybe the fact that I study film at NYU,
Yeah.
the American school matters. But I really start out as international.
Yeah.
But I start making my movie in New York City about Chinese. I have a pretty peculiar route of my career. In Asia, particularly Chinese language territory, I'm mainstream. But because they're not English, then in American world cinema, I'm foreign because they're not English. I speak English. I work closely with some Americans or world cinema people. And my movies in the world cinema start with our house and gradually expand, platform release as they call them, and some of course break into the shopping mall. So once in a while they approach me, and I don't want to be stereotyping to family drama or ethnic drama, so I really make efforts to make movie like after Sensibility, The Ice Storm. This is purely art house.
Right with the
with
devil.
Bigger, Right with the Devil
Yeah.
was a war epic. Just try to be different. Then I pick on Crouching Tiger, Hidden Dragon. I didn't know that was gonna be an international
So
hit,
big,
and even get 10 Oscar nominations. So I think Hollywood always want to work with interesting talents. There seems to be I have a chance, even though I'm clinging to the art house. Seems to be I have a common language in cinematic language. It's kind of common. It's not strictly art house or movies that you can scratch your head or stick to. There's a certain universality to it. So I think after this movie, if commercially it works, anything's possible. I think it's just a unique situation, movie by movie.
that this relationship has got built.
I myself think I'm still like 3 inches shy of Hollywood.
Really?
It's just slightly off, but possible. Whenever there's a big launcher movie, I feel a little uncomfortable. I feel I need to be more modest. Just the way they hammer the commercial, the promotion, you know, into the world, I feel a little uncomfortable. But I hope this movie can take that kind of hit. Personally, I like to see that it's a very profound movie, regardless of the spectacles.
Is this a risk for you, this film?
Yeah. Well, I feel lucky, privileged that somebody's paying for this movie. It's bigger risk for them. If the commercial doesn't do well, at least I get to make this movie. I feel very fortunate. But we have high hopes. It's a risk, but it's not suicidal.
China and Taiwan have flourishing film industries, and yet Hollywood, I think, gives you scale that nobody else can. Would I be right in simplifying why you prefer to work in Hollywood or in America into this sentence? Scale, the fact that they can support big projects.
I like to do everything. I think Hollywood is just part of what I like to do. Just the film industry, mainstream filmmaking, the scale, the sophistication of making movie, there's nothing like Hollywood. You go to LA, anything you want. There's experts. There's 100 years of experience, accumulated experiences, mixing, product, anything you want. So that is only Hollywood. Nobody can catch them. So when you have like a major league production, if you find a common language, if you can take the Hollywood politics and the marketing machine, if you can take on that, I think a movie like this, I don't know how else you're gonna make it. Not just money. You can fool somebody to invest a lot of money to make a movie too expensive to make. You can do that, but the making of it, just the knowledge or the sophistication in filmmaking, you have to do it there. I made this movie in Taiwan and India, but still, it's the resources Hollywood, the knowledge, just the infrastructure. I have to bring that structure to Taiwan and exercise there.
Your set was, I think, in an airfield in
Taiwan
that you set
I
it
did
up.
a studio, I bring Burbank to Taiwan.
I want to talk about two of your films, Brokeback Mountain and The Wedding Banquet. Both of them love stories, gay love stories if you want to categorize them, but it's really about just love, love between two people. And you managed to make it not about two men in love, but you managed to make it about love. Was that a special effort? Because I've seen both the movies and they're deeply moving, though The Wedding Banquet is also very funny, in parts, and I quite love it. Where did that approach come from? Because we are still not entirely free, are we, in terms of our outlook and prejudices?
Well, I made it that way just because I'm making it. I don't know, maybe I'm not gay, so just naturally when I go about it, I see something else. What about their wives? What about their parents? So I don't, before me, when gay cinema has certain film language that has to be different. I'm a very common man. So when some gay love story moved me like that, you see, when I go about a material, I have to be moved in a gut level. And I cry when I read the short story Brokeback Mountain. And I don't have any common with the Wyoming gay cowboys. I grew up in Taiwan, it has nothing to do with me. Why am I connected to it? I want to go there. Now, then the rest is like actor playing a different role. You have to adapt. You have to live in that world. Now, I made a lot of women's movie. I didn't go through sexual surgery and sex change surgery to do those movies. But you have to put yourself into that situation. I think no matter what I do, there's always some universality. That's my character. I guess I'm a common man.
In the research that I did to meet you, I haven't really seen you express any political views about China, about Taiwan. Is that out of choice? Do you try to divorce yourself from that, or do you not see any reason as a film? I'm trying to get at your political views.
I think I have, always have. I just didn't make them explicitly.
Why is that?
It's just being Chinese. That's what we do. We do that for thousands of years. The first 3 movies are all political movies, like, including Wedding Banquet.
Yeah, yeah.
If you get down to that, for some people they're obvious, more obvious than some other audience. That's just what I like to do. I don't see myself as being very political, but any human being has political aspect. We live in politics, so naturally, it's in you. I don't have to be that specific or obvious, but anything I do, they come from somewhere.
But when you hear about dissident Chinese artists, do you feel like you need to express support for their for their
How do I do
freedom?
that? That's not me. I have not done that. Be very outspoken, political. I have not.
And that's who you are. That's what makes you.
Yeah.
That's natural to you.
That's natural me, and I'm comfortable with that. But I'll do it implicitly. That's my comfort zone and where I want to be.
Give us a sense of what it's like to be Ang Lee, because you seem to have the job that you always wanted to do, even though at one point you wanted to be an actor.
Well, the process is finding what I do best. I got into this business because when I was 18, I stood on stage for the first time, and I suddenly realized I belong to the stage, I belong to the lights.
Yeah.
And I look out to the audiences in the dark because my light was glistening with the stage lights, and I belong to there where that dark mystery is. So that was a big shock to me, and I was electrified. I want to be an actor. But then I went to the States to study theater more, and I couldn't act because I didn't speak English.
Yeah.
So I had the sense that directing is just failed actors. And I thought, I want to be a movie director. I don't want to direct stage. But actually in film school in New York, I found movies just a lot easier for me. It's just sight and sound. Tell a story visually. That's like my second nature. It's just like I know what to do. So I think I'm a pretty nature filmmaker. I spoke broken English. I can make sensibility. Why not keep doing it?
Something is working. Ang Lee, it's a pleasure talking to you. We're looking forward to this movie and to all your other movies. Thank you.
Thank you
all the
very
best.
much.